gig. I lasted about 5 minutes out there. I said, to heck with this. I'll do this in the morning. And I don't have any inside information. The lady that did it, she got in there. She made it happen.
And he doesn't shy away from opinion.
And I do enjoy drinking cold beer at ballparks. So if that makes me a baseball fan, then I'm a diehard baseball fan.
It's Hacker After Dark on 1010XL.
And a very good Wednesday evening to you, Jacksonville. It is Hacker After Dark, 1010XL, 92.5 FM with Dylan Denmark. The Hacker Ryan Green with you. Glad you are with us as we get to the latter stages of the month of May, which means preseason. College football magazines are hitting newsstands. Lindy's is out. Athlon is out. In fact, one of my guests tonight, Will Miles, he of Read and Reaction, they do a yearly Florida Gator preseason magazine, and the Read and Reaction preseason magazine is out. 70 pages of nothing but Florida Gator stuff for you Gator fans heading into the 2024 season. Will join us in less than 20 minutes, but I thought, we always start on the Jaguars, obviously. Do a little change up tonight. I have a little college ball. I want to talk about Lindy's and Athlon and some of these preseason prognostications when it comes to Florida and Florida State, Miami, and Georgia. So we'll do some college ball to kick things off here in just a moment. And again, Will Miles of readandreaction.com. He comes up in less than 20 minutes. At the top of the 9 o'clock hour, our AFC East previews this week will continue. Last night we were in Buffalo. Later on this week we will go to Foxborough and East Rutherford. But tonight we are heading to South Beach. Our man down in Miami is David Furones of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel covering the Miami Dolphins. Keep in mind the Jaguars open up with Miami on Sunday, September the 8th, week number 1, 1 o'clock. Good grief, is that going to be hot. The NFL not doing anybody any favors there with Jacksonville at Miami, 1 o'clock on Sunday, September 8th. But what about Tua's contract? What about the arrival of Odell Beckham? We'll review the Dolphin offseason with David Furones of the South Florida Sun-Sentinel as our AFC East preview continues all week long. That comes up at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. We're absolutely loaded. We're with you till 10. We're glad you're with us. Right off the bat, before we even get into the big deal of the night, this is a big deal for me. Ladies and gentlemen, 9 years of marriage today for myself and my lovely bride, Heidi. Happy anniversary, sweetie. It was May 29th, 2015 when I became a married man, and here we are 9 years later, a little hack later. So a very happy anniversary to my wife now of 9 glorious years. Every night here on Hacker After Dark, we do kick it off with a big deal of the night. And Dylan Denmark. Let's do that right now.
Time now for the big deal of the night.
What's the big deal?
What is the big deal?
No big deal.
It is a big deal.
On Hacker After Dark.
So, preseason magazines. Boy, they used to be a really big deal. Maybe they still are. Denmark, you are considerably younger than I am. Are you, and I know you're a reader, you read a lot. Are you a preseason college football magazine guy?
Yes.
Have a preference?
I do Phil Steele, Lindy's, and Athlon. Those are my 3.
Oh, so you do pretty much all of them. All right, interesting. Those are the 3 main ones. Those are the 3 that have been around for a long, long time. I love Phil Steele. We'll have him on. I think his hits the newsstands around the 4th of July. I always have Phil on at some point. Lindy's is out. Athlon's is out. I'll never forget the first time I ever got a magazine, and it's kind of ironic, Denmark, because you and I were just talking about this. I was going on a plane ride in June of 1996 to Europe with my grandmother and our church group. It was a crazy trip. I mean, thinking back, we went to like Germany, the Czech Republic, Poland. I honestly didn't appreciate it as much then as I do now, almost 30 years later. But I had to find something to occupy my time as a 12-year-old getting on a plane flying to Europe. So my mom, at one of the newsstands in the airport, bought me every college and NFL magazine she could find that given morning, which was Lindy's and Athlon. And from that point forward, 1996, what are we talking, 28 years ago, I don't think 1 year has gone by in the 28 years where I didn't get at least one preseason college football magazine. Now, I know a lot of it is transferred to online, and you can read a lot of it on your phone, and I get all that. But there is something about having that magazine. Maybe you have it in your throne upstairs to read on a morning basis when you're doing your constitutional. You could do all sorts of different things with it. But I have had that magazine, at least one of them, for the last 28 years. Which leads me to this year. And Lindy's was the first one that came out. I believe it came out last week. And of the 4 teams we cover locally, of course, Georgia, Florida State, Miami, and Florida, boy, Lindy's is awfully high on 3 of those teams. They are awfully low on the other one. We'll get to them in a moment. In the Atlantic Coast Conference, Lindy's picks Florida State to win the ACC. Now, I don't necessarily know if that is an endorsement of Florida State or if that is an indictment of the ACC. Maybe equal measures of both. Florida State lost a lot of talent. I mean, when you just name off the guys they lost, Jordan Travis, Trey Benson, Johnny Wilson, Keon Coleman, Jaheim Bell, Jared Verse, Braden Fisk, Jarian Jones. I mean, on and on and on and on you can go. But they also replaced them with good players out of the portal. They've done well in recruiting. DJU arrives in the transfer portal from Oregon State. I think Florida State's going to be good. I don't think they're going to be near as good as they were last year. But who's going to beat them in the Atlantic Coast Conference? North Carolina, well, they're replacing Drake May. NC State, I don't buy them. Duke, they're not going to do that again. And then you go to Miami. Well, all right, I probably trust Florida State and Mike Norvell a little more than I trust Mario Cristobal in Miami. And then you come to Clemson. And Dabo Swinney, I don't get it, man. The times we live in with the transfer portal, every team takes advantage of that, save one. Clemson does not take advantage of the transfer portal. I guess it's in Dabo's DNA to not do that. So Florida State picked to win the ACC. By the way, Clemson 2, Miami 3. Denmark, you agree with that? Florida State 1, Clemson 2, Miami 3, the way Lindy's has it in the ACC?
Yeah, I agree.
The thing with Florida State is their schedule is not daunting. I wouldn't call it cupcake, but it's not daunting. And keep in mind, Florida State is one of the first games of the year. They kick off on that August the 24th against Georgia Tech in Dublin, Ireland. And ladies and gentlemen, let me tell you something. Nothing says the kickoff to college football like the Seminoles and the Yellow Jackets in Dublin, Ireland at noon Eastern on August the 24th. So Florida State opens with Georgia Tech. They then play on on Labor Day night at Boston College. Memphis is interesting, but they'll beat Memphis in Tallahassee. That's an interesting non-conference game. Then that big ACC tilt against Cal there at Doak S. Campbell Stadium. And then the equally big ACC tilt against SMU. What the heck, man? Cal and SMU back-to-back? That will take some getting used to. They get Clemson at home. They got to go to Duke. They got to go to Miami. So they do have to go to Miami on October 26th. Excuse me. They get North Carolina at home. They do have to go to Notre Dame, which will not count for an ACC record, but Notre Dame, that was announced as a night game today at 7:30 on what is that, November 9th. Then Charleston Southern, and then Florida. So Denmark, as I look at Florida State's schedule, Georgia Tech win, Boston College win, Memphis win, Cal win. At SMU, that's weird, but they should win at SMU in Dallas. So that's 5-0, and I think it would be a disappointment to not be 5-0 before Clemson comes to town. Let's even say you lose Clemson. 5-1. You're going to beat Duke, 6-1. And then you go to Miami. And if you lose Clemson, you got to beat Miami. Then you have North Carolina at home, at Notre Dame, Charleston Southern, and Florida. Denmark, I just don't think that's a very difficult schedule.
No, their over-under's 9.5. And also, too, we have to consider one of those teams they're going to play. They're probably going to rematch them in the ACC championship game. So you're going to have that to do as well. I mean, everybody else is going to deal with it, too. I mean, you kind of figure at this point, if you go 10-2, you're pretty much you're almost a lock to get in the playoffs.
That's what I was going to ask you. If Florida State goes 10-2, now what's interesting is the ACC title game may hurt them, because if they're 10-2 in the ACC title game, they lose to go to 10-3. Does a 10-3 Florida State team get in? I don't know. I agree that 10-2 probably gets in, but can you afford a third loss? This is a situation where Florida State might like to be 10-2, but not necessarily in the ACC title game. You look at Miami, who Lindy's has third in the ACC, and Miami's season kicks off with the Florida Gators. That is a monumental game for both programs and both head coaches. We spent so much time talking about Billy Napier being on the hot seat, and I believe that he is to an extent. Let me tell you something. If Billy Napier knocks off Mario Cristobal in that opener, and it's certainly plausible, I mean, the game's in Gainesville, right? I'm not breaking any news here that Florida could beat Miami in Gainesville. Boy, how much is the pressure ratcheted up on Cristobal at that point? At Florida, where Miami gets lucky is their next three are jokes. FAMU, Ball State, at USF. No offense, USF, but that's a joke. Then Virginia Tech, at Cal. Miami at Cal in an ACC tilt on October 5th. Louisville, Florida State, Duke, Georgia Tech, Wake Forest, Syracuse. Yuck. That's going to put pressure on Cristobal right there. That schedule is not hard at all. Not difficult at all. With that schedule I just read, if Miami goes anything less than 9-3, I think some Miami boosters are going to start talking at that point. They will not be happy in Coral Gables. Denmark, what's your thought on Miami?
It's all going to be dependent on the quarterback, I guess. A lot of things have been said good about the transfer they got in.
A lot of pressure on Cam Ward. People seem to think he's going to be the best quarterback maybe in the ACC this year.
Yeah, I don't know. I've been around football too long to where you just can't believe everything that, every team is good right now. We're going to have meetings coming up and media days coming up here in the next month or so, and every team's going to say, we're good in this group, and, this guy is really good. I'm going to wait till August and go from there. But I think Miami's going to be top 3 in the conference. I don't think that's far-fetched.
Georgia picked to win the SEC by Lindy's. Although Georgia's schedule is pretty hard. I mean, albeit they've had a relatively easy schedule, SEC speaking, the last couple of years. Not this year. They open up against Clemson, high noon, Saturday, August 31st. They have a cupcake against Tennessee Tech, but then at Kentucky, Saturday, September 14th, a bye week, and then at Alabama, Saturday, September 28th. So Clemson, Kentucky, and Alabama, and none of those are in Athens before they even hit the month of October. Then they get Auburn at home, Mississippi State at home, then they have to go to Texas. Yikes. At Kentucky, at Alabama, at Texas for the Dogs. Then the cocktail party. Then at Ole Miss. Man, Georgia's going to earn it this year. Those are 4 legit road games. You got to go to Lexington. You got to go to Tuscaloosa. You got to go to Austin, and you got to go to Oxford. Whew. Then they get Tennessee at home, UMass at home, and Georgia Tech at home. So they'll probably ride pretty easy with the last 3. We'll see where Tennessee is in mid-November. But finally, that brings me to Florida. As we mentioned, Wendy's had Florida State winning the ACC, had Miami third in the ACC. They had Georgia winning the SEC. And then they had the Gators. And they had the Gators not first, not second, not third. Nope. They had them 13th in the SEC out of 16 teams. The only team Lindy's had Florida better than was South Carolina, Arkansas. Actually, I think they were 12. I think there were 4 teams lower than them. I think it was South Carolina, Arkansas, Mississippi State, and Vandy. So I believe Florida was 12th in the SEC according to Lindy's. And that's all schedule related. We've talked about it. We will continue to talk about it for the next 3 months till the season kicks off. It's the hardest schedule I can ever remember. Now, I've had people on this program tell me that Florida's schedule has a lot of good logos on it. But actually, how good are the teams with those logos? Meaning, look, Miami, that's a great logo. Are they any good? A&M, that's a great logo. I mean, they just fired Jimbo. How good are they going to be in September? Kentucky, all right. You get them in Gainesville. They got a brand new quarterback. Tennessee, yeah, great logo. They got a brand new quarterback, replacing a lot of talent. Mississippi State, not going to be very good. UCF, you should beat UCF in Gainesville. Florida's season is going to be 2 parts. It's going to be the first 7 games and the last 5. If they want to go to a bowl game, they have to be at an absolute minimum, in my opinion, 4-3, likely 5-2 in the first 7, which is home Miami, home Samford, home Texas A&M, at Mississippi State, home UCF, at Tennessee, home Kentucky. Because the last 5 is the most brutal stretch for any college team in the country. I'd put this 5 against any other team's schedule. Cocktail party against Georgia, at Texas, home LSU, home Ole Miss, at Florida State. Preseason ranks 1, 4, 12, 6, and 15 are who Florida's ending with in the last 5 weeks. Yuck. According to Gator Athletic Director Scott Strickland today, I'm paraphrasing here, but he basically said this year's not about the schedule. It's about the Gators. That all sounds good, right? That's a nice thought. No, it's about the schedule. It's about scheduling UCF and scheduling Miami when you did not have to. You did not have to. Say what you will about playing Cupcake U. When you play an 8-game SEC slate and Florida State, you don't owe an explanation to anybody. I don't care what anybody says. Oh, you play directional school U. Yeah, you're darn right I do. Because I'm playing LSU, I'm playing Georgia, I'm playing Tennessee, I'm rotating Auburn, Alabama, and oh, by the way, I get Florida State every year too. I don't need to play anybody else. Nope, play the best. All right, well, you get UCF and Miami, so you don't have 11 big conference games on your schedule. It's tough. It's tough. And the preseason magazines are going to hate the Gators. We've already seen it with Lindy's, picking them, 12th out of a 16-team conference. I would take 7-5 right now and head for the hills if I was Florida, without question. Without question. 7-5, the season's a success. Anything above 7-5, Billy Napier might be coach of the year. And I'm serious about that. It is a brutal schedule. You hope it's a logo schedule, because if those teams are as good as the logos indicate they normally are, it's going to be a battle. Let's talk Florida Gator football. Let's talk 2024. Graham Mertz, DJ Lagway, offense, defense, Billy Napier in the hot seat, everything with my buddy Will Miles. ReadandReaction.com. He's also a part of the Gators Breakdown podcast. The Read and Reaction Florida Gator preseason magazine is available now. 70 pages of information on Florida football. I get it every year. I love it. That's why I have Will on. I think he does a terrific job. He joins us next on a Wednesday night in the city of Jacksonville with Dylan Denmark, the hacker Ryan Green with you here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM.
Nothing's happening.
Be patient.
I don't know. It's not responding.
Wait for it.
1010XL. 1010XL.
See? There you go.
Blue here for the Blue Crab House, located right off of San Jose. It's on Jewington Creek Road. They've been around since 1996. Indoor-outdoor dining. Also, takeout is available at the Blue Crab House. Open 4:30 to 9, Tuesday through Saturday. Sunday, noon until 9. Remember, Tuesday, $2 margaritas. Wednesday, $1 oyster night. How about the blue crabs? How about my personal favorite, the Canadian snow crabs? Whatever it is that you fancy, you get it right there. The Blue Crab House.
Men, if you're suffering from erectile dysfunction or PE, Prime Men's Medical Center will get your sex life back in just one visit. Their painless, breakthrough medical treatments eliminate ED and PE. Here's a specialist in men's health.
I'm Dr. Simovitz. Have Viagra or Cialis let you down? Prime Men's Medical Center offers the most effective treatments that eliminate ED and PE, with men lasting longer than ever. 98% of patients see instant results on their first visit.
Prime Men's Medical Center's breakthrough treatments will restore your sex life regardless of age or medical history. Your consultation and first treatment are free. Plus, you'll see instant results in the office. Plus, qualified patients will have their testosterone checked free. Call 904-902-8222. 904-902-8222. To regain your sex life in just one visit, call now. 904-902-8222.
Warm weather means the beach, fishing, golf, and more. Make sure to drop into Daly's and grab a cold case to go. From Bud Light to their seltzer, from Mick Ultra to Modelo, or your favorite crafts like Bold City or Sweetwater. Grab and go at your local Daly's.
Let's go! And happy Halloween in June. Come cheer your Jacksonville Sharks on to victory as they fight against the Arizona Rattlers this Saturday, June 1st, 7 o'clock at the VyStar Veterans Memorial Arena. With tickets as low as $15, you're not going to find any Saturdays with more family affordable fun. It's for everyone. Dig out your best costumes for Halloween night. It's always one of the faves. Whoever has the best costume will go home with a prize. Venture into the Scare Zone, featuring 13th Floor Haunted House. And join us post-game on the field for an autograph session. Don't miss the game. This Saturday, June 1st, it's Halloween in June at the Veterans Memorial Arena. Be a part of indoor football fun and exciting, non-stop action. For tickets as low as $15, call 904-621-0700. Get ready for Fright Night. Let's go.
It's all about the beautiful game, the Sporting Jacks Soccer Hour. From national teams to youth soccer on the First Coast, join Cole Pepper, Mauricio Ruiz, and Becky Burley for Soccer Talk, Monday evenings on 10:10 a.m.
Uh-oh. Oh, no. Honey!
Septic alert, septic alert. Time for a spring septic clean? Contact Duck Duck Rooter today. Just $5.25 to keep your septic alive. For just $525, Duck Duck Rooter will pump out your septic tank, clean your outlet filter, plus send a plumber to your home to provide drain cleaning to your main sewer line. Call now to book 904-862-6769. DuckDuckRooter.com. Proud partner of the Jacksonville Jaguars.
Hello, First Coast. I'm sure by now you have seen our bright green GFL trucks and containers throughout the greater Jacksonville area. We're an industry leader in solid waste and would love the opportunity to earn your business. We're committed to customer service, reliability, and have an unwavering focus on safety. Whether commercial or construction, let us haul your waste away. Call 904-760-5880 to get a quote today. From GFL, Green for Life.
Hey sports fans, it's Hayes Carline for Kingfish Pest Control. Are mosquitoes turning your outdoor fun into a full contact sport? Time to call in Kingfish Pest Control. I can tell you from my own experience, they are the MVPs of mosquito elimination. See for yourself. Call Kingfish Pest Control today and get an unbeatable 50% off your first treatment. That's right, sign up for a full season of lockdown coverage and get 50% off your first treatment. Don't let mosquitoes steal your home field advantage. Reclaim your yard with Kingfish Pest Control.
Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
Instant Keys saves the day if you have lost or broken keys. They can program new keys and remotes for nearly every make and model of vehicle. at a fraction of the dealership cost. Fast, honest, and reliable locksmith service. Call 722-1111.
Instant Keys. Instant Keys. You don't have to go to the dealer. Instant Keys comes to you.
This is Keith Catlin for Catlin Truck Accessories, and we are so blessed to be in business for over 100 years. Over 100 years of the best product and customer service means you can count on Catlin. From Roll-and Lock bed covers to Lear toppers to cam locker toolboxes, Catlin Truck Accessories has you covered when it comes to your truck or van. We do those too. Got a fleet of vehicles? We can outfit them all.
Who can you count on? Count on Catlin.
One name, one location, 100 years. You can count on Catlin.
Need or want cash? Beaches Jewelry and Pawn has cash available. Ready to buy guitars, surfboards, jewelry, firearms, tools, and especially gold. They need it all, selling or pawning. Get cash on the spot at Beaches Jewelry and Pawn in Jacksonville Beach.
1010XL is presented by Farah & Farah, exclusive injury law firm of the Jacksonville Jaguars. Protecting you and your family. Call 396-5555. Jacksonville. Let's ring up another guest on the All-Pro Roofing phone line.
Back here on 1010XL and 92.5 FM in the city of Jacksonville. We are glad you are with us. The late stages of May, the early stages of June, and preseason magazines are hitting the newsstands, and that includes the Read and Reaction Florida Gator preseason magazine. I read it every year. It is comprehensive when it comes to Florida Gator football. Will Miles puts it together. Will Miles of readandreaction.com, and he's always kind enough to join us here on 1010XL. Will, how you doing?
Doing great. Busy, or not really as busy anymore now that we finished up the magazine, but it's sort of a labor of love. We love putting it out there, and hopefully Gator fans get a lot of information and learn something from it, because it's got a lot of good stuff in there.
I tell you this every year. It is an encyclopedia for Florida Gator fans with all the information you could ever want on the upcoming season. Give us a brief description of the magazine this year. We'll certainly dive into some of the finer details in a moment, but putting the magazine together, what went into it this year?
Yeah, so it's 70 pages of Gator-only content, so it's differentiated from some of those other summer college football magazines that only have like 2 or 3 pages on your favorite team. And what we've really tried to do is sort of the title or the theme of this year is Florida against the world, and that's sort of a play on Trevor Etienne having that on his eye black underneath his helmet all year long last year, and then him bailing to Georgia. But also, look, this is a prove-it year for Billy Napier. It's a prove-it year for Graham Mertz. It's a prove-it year for the defense and Austin Armstrong and Ron Roberts. And so there's a lot of naysayers out there, and we wanted to take a look at each of those areas and say, okay, so what does Ron Roberts bring? What did he learn when he was at Baylor? Can he take those things to Gainesville? How good can a guy like DJ Lagway be? What does Graham Mertz need to do to take the next step? And then how does Billy Napier scheme to get Trey Wilson open? And does the loss of Ricky Pearsall change that at all? So those are the sorts of things you're going to get when you take a look at this magazine. And it's very similar to what we have on the website. We've got some pretty cool features this year where you can scan a QR code and it'll take you to a YouTube clip that we then describe in the magazine, so you can actually see our description of what's going on schematically on the page while also being able to watch it there on your phone.
Will Miles, readandreaction.com. The Florida Gator Read and Reaction preseason magazine is out. We will let you know where you can pick it up in just a few moments. Will, since the last time you and I talked, boy, Billy Napier closed the portal pretty strong. 3 pretty big impact guys at 3 need positions, including, of course, Cormani McClain, who Florida fans thought they were getting a year ago. They finally get him now. Also some help at wide receiver, some help on the offensive line. A good job by Billy Napier as the portal closed.
Yeah, he's really used that portal to fill up, like you said, some of the holes. Specifically, the commitment of Elijah Badger is the one that jumps out to me. In many ways, because it then allows Trey Wilson to do all the sort of Swiss Army knife type of stuff that he does. There are a lot of things where Billy Napier actually had Trey Wilson in the backfield, where he had Montrell Johnson as the lead blocker, and that sort of puts the defense in a position where they don't know whether to be prepared for a running play, whether they're not sure to be prepared for a screen, or whether all of a sudden you can get Wilson open deep because you got him one-on-one on a linebacker. You can't do that if you don't have the help on the outside. So to me, Badger is the big pickup out of those 3, along with some of the safeties that he brought in earlier. The guys like Triquez Bridges, Asa Turner, and DJ Douglas, I think, are going to be big cogs on the defense. So real early on in the portal, they went with guys who had experience. And now other than Badger coming on the back end, they really sort of filled out the depth with young, high profile, high upside type of guys who, if they contribute in 2024, I think we'd be happy. But really those guys, specific guys like Cormani McLean, the expectation is those guys are really 2025, 2026 type contributors, at least big time.
On paper, Will, it appears Billy Napier had his most successful transfer portal this year of his tenure at Florida. Would you agree with that?
Yeah, I think that's absolutely clear. You start looking like the on-off numbers from places like Sports Info Solutions, and a lot of the defensive players, I think probably like 8 or 9 of the defensive players last year, the defense was actually worse when the starters were on the field. And so some of those weak spots have really been shored up by the transfers they brought in, particularly on the backside. Guys like Douglas and Turner and Bridges, I think, bring a lot, especially when you consider that a guy like Jordan Castell at the safety position really played well as a freshman, but now as a sophomore, you expect him to take a step up too. So being able to marry some of the needs with also bringing in guys who maybe aren't even stars, but just are able to not be below average, I think is one of the things they've really been able to do in the transfer portal and really set themselves up, especially on the defensive side of the ball, to be able to be much better than they were last year.
Will Miles, readandreaction.com, here with us on 1010XL in Jacksonville. Will, let's look at the offense first. You mentioned Graham Mertz, obviously DJ Lagway, but this is Mertz's barbecue, man. This is his team. Lagway will probably see some time in certain packages and whatnot, but they're going to go as far as Graham Mertz is going to take them. What are your thoughts on Mertz coming into the year?
Yeah, I mean, my thoughts on it is that if you look at the stats last year, Mertz checked down too much, and that he struggled when the pocket was clean, and actually did really well when opposing defenses blitzed and got pressure on him. If he can improve how he plays when the pocket is clean, Florida's offense is going to be really, really good next year. Now, if you look back, some of that has to do with pushing the ball down the field, and if you look back at his time at Wisconsin, the minute he tried to push the ball down the field, he started to really struggle. And so that's sort of a fundamental question to me for 2024 is his average depth of target last year was like 6.5 yards. And at Wisconsin, it was around 10. And really, if you look at some of the elite quarterbacks, their average depth of target ends up somewhere between 8 and 12. And so as he starts pushing the ball down the field, are we going to see more mistakes? Or are we going to see more of the Wisconsin Mertz? Or is he going to be able to strategically push the ball down the field? And Billy Napier's talked about that this offseason, that they need to push the ball down the field. And that, to me, is going to be the key for Mertz, and the key for this offense is going to be how can they get it down the field instead of having to check down. Now, some of that had to do with offensive line, but some of that was on Mertz. And he's going to have to be better when it comes to throwing the ball away and living to play another day, but also making sure he gets to the read that's deeper downfield and is able to take advantage of what the defense has given him.
Ricky Pearsall gone, Trevor Etienne gone, now to Athens. Certainly there was some big losses. A guy like Caleb Douglas as well is no longer with the roster, but they have some acquisitions. You mentioned Badger. You mentioned some of the new guys that have come in. What's your thought on the skill positions surrounding Mertz?
I think they're going to have some freshmen step up, or at least some inexperienced guys step up. They got a little bit from guys like Arliss Boardingham and Hayden Hansen last year, but those guys are going to be the starters and going to be major contributors at the tight end position. They're going to have to get something significant out of a guy like Boardingham. Guys like Aiden Mizell and Andy Jean, who came in last year and certainly were definitely, we sort of thought all three might get an opportunity, and it turned out to be the Trey Wilson show. The question is going to be, can one of those guys relieve pressure on Badger and Wilson? And then a guy like Shamir Dike, who's the transfer from Wisconsin, has played with Mertz in the past. If they get 2022 production from DK, 2022 production from Badger, and if Mertz can take a step forward, this offense can be really dynamic. The one thing I think that people are overlooking a little bit is the two new tackles. So they brought in Crenshaw Dixon, and you're obviously going to have Austin Barber as well in the mix. And with those guys that they brought in, you would expect bringing Damian George to the inside, that the running game is going to get better. So one of Florida's issues last year was the running backs were getting hit really quickly, and a guy like Etienne was able to get away and hit a few big plays, but a guy like Montrell Johnson wasn't really able to play to his full potential because he was getting hit, an average of like 2 yards from the line of scrimmage, whereas the year before it was almost 3 yards before he got hit. So if the improvement on the offensive line can improve the running game, then that obviously opens up the passing game, gives the quarterback more time, and everything's sort of symbiotic. So I expect the offensive line to be better. I expect Mertz to push the ball down the field. I expect one of those wide receivers to step up in some capacity, but I don't expect you're just going to be throwing a screen pass out there and expecting the guy to take it 90 yards. They're still going to be pretty systematic. There's still going to be some people who sit there and say Billy Napier needs to be a little bit faster, that his offense plods along a little bit. But it's really going to come down to how do they perform in the red zone, because they're going to get down there quite a bit just because of being systematic and relatively risk averse. Are they going to be able to convert that into points? We'll see. I think a better offensive line and Montrell Johnson back there should be able to bring more success in the red zone.
Couple of more for Will Miles, readandreaction.com, and you're right, the offensive line, your offense is only as good as your offensive line. Florida's needs to be better. They also got to be better on defense, Will. There were times last year where that was a joke. Kentucky is a prime example. I go back to Baton Rouge. Now, look, I get it. With Malik Neighbors and with Jaden Daniels and Brian Thomas, I mean, that was a lot of LSU talent, but the defense out there for Florida just looked lost last season. It was bad. They got to do better. Do you think they will be better in 2024?
So I think a lot of it's going to depend on the influence that Ron Roberts has coming in. So Roberts, when he was at Louisiana, had a very similar profile in terms of how often he blitzed, how often he played single high safety versus two deep safeties. And so he was very single high safety heavy and then very blitz happy when he was at Louisiana. When he went to Baylor, that completely flipped. And last year at Auburn, that trend kind of continued. And Austin Armstrong and even Patrick Toney 2 years ago both sort of have been running that Louisiana defense that just has not worked at Florida at all. And I suspect that Roberts is going to get them to dial it back a little bit, be a little bit more conservative, and rely on their guys to go out there and make tackles, but also give them a little bit of a safety blanket in case they miss. And, Armstrong had a reputation for being aggressive coming in. If you looked at the film at Southern Miss, there were times where he was playing cover zero, even when he had his opponent deep in their own territory. I don't know. I think you'll be able to tell pretty early on whether Roberts has been able to get him to dial it back. And I think Armstrong's a pretty good defensive coordinator. I just think he gets over aggressive. And given that Florida struggled tackling last year, that meant a lot of explosives. The explosives should come down if they're a little bit more conservative, and hopefully Ron Roberts can sort of lead the way and apply what he learned at Baylor, because it's amazing when you look at the shift. There was just a complete shift in philosophy. Now, was that Dave Aranda there at Baylor, or is that Ron Roberts? Some of what you see in Auburn last year suggests that Roberts learned some stuff, and we'll see if he transfers that on to Austin Armstrong.
As we wrap up, the big story of the offseason is not even so much the roster, Will, as it is the schedule. I mean, the schedule is just absolutely brutal. In fact, Scott Strickland talked about that earlier today, I believe, saying this season's not about the schedule, it's about the Gators. Well, that's nice and wonderful, but, I mean, you're playing 8 or 9 teams that are going to be preseason top 25. I've followed Gator football. I'm 40 years old. I go back probably the first year of Spurrier in 90. I was 6 years old. This is as far back as I go. It's the hardest schedule on paper that I can remember Florida having. I mean, what's your thought on how they're going to navigate this thing?
I mean, I think the question is going to be, obviously, depth is going to be critical. So the fact that they brought in, that they had Triquez Bridges playing safety, and then you've got Castell and you've got Turner and you've got DJ Douglas, means you got a lot of depth there. But there are a few places where you don't have depth. So defensive end, defensive tackle, at the linebacker position especially. We saw what happened last year when Shamar James went down. So navigating the schedule, I think, is going to rely on them hopefully having injuries at spots where they have guys who can step up. Because in an SEC schedule, you're always going to have injuries. The question is, do you have injuries in a place where you've got reinforcements? Otherwise, a lot of the young guys are going to have to step up. And the question will be, is a guy like Miles Graham really ready to put in what's necessary for big-time SEC football? A lot of people have asked me that, what do I think the key game is this year? I actually think the key game is probably how do they respond after that Georgia game. I think most of us expect them to lose that game. But after a 5-game losing streak to end last year, you lose the game. If you end up losing the game to Georgia, now you got Texas and Ole Miss and Florida State. And, that schedule sort of on the back end is obviously very, very difficult. But I think some of those teams aren't going to be as good as we think they are. So then the question will be, has Florida sort of been able to – are they able to recover quick enough if they have a loss to a Georgia or to a Texas to be able to pull out one or two of those? Because I don't know that they need to go 4-1 in the last 5, but I think they can't go 1-4 or 0-5 and consider it a successful season. So how they navigate the the down times when they come, because they are going to come this year, is going to tell a lot about the fortitude of the program, the culture that Napier's built, and whether that culture is strong enough to overcome some of the talent deficits that they're going to have over the course of the year.
Will, final question, then I want to get to the magazine and how people can get their hands on it. Billy Napier. I like Billy. I think Gator fans like Billy, and I'm going to use the term realistic. Amazingly, the ones that I know that are normally not realistic are being realistic about the Gators in 2024, which I think will help Billy to an extent. Is there a number that he needs to hit to be safe? I mean, is it a bowl game or problems? I mean, how do you see that this year?
I think when you look at college football, there are two things as a fan base that you always want. You either want championships or you want hope. And so to me, that's the thing. Is let's say Florida comes out of the gate and they're 1-3, and then DJ Lagway comes in and they end up 6-6, but Lagway's playing awesome. I think Napier gets more rope than he would if he went 7-5 and the team looked disorganized and they blew a couple of late leads. So I don't know that it's necessarily the actual record. I think in many ways it's how do they look. So the changes that they've made on special teams, the changes that they've made on defense, some of the changes they haven't made on offense, with Napier still being the offensive coordinator, how all of those things turn out, I think should be more important to fans than what the actual final record is. Now, look, you're not going to be able to go 3-9 and survive. That's just sort of the reality. But, if you told me 6-6 and we've seen really good play from DJ Lagway, I think I look at that and say that's a successful season heading into 2025, because the downside of the schedule is, yeah, it's really, really tough. The upside of the schedule is if you go 9-3, you're in the playoff. And so preparing the team to be ready for that 2025 run, I think, is what 2024 is about. And Lagway is a huge part of that. So to me, it's how do you sell hope? And the ways you sell hope are operational excellence, making sure special teams are running right, making sure the defense is starting to come around, seeing some of the young guys step into the roles that you envision for them. And then hopefully you pull out a few at the end and maybe you end up 7-5, 8-4. But, if you ended up 6-6 or even 5-7, but we saw that hope, I think people would be patient with Napier.
Will Miles, Read and Reaction. The Read and Reaction Florida Gator preseason magazine is available now. 70 pages of information all about Florida football. Will, where can people find the magazine and get their hands on it?
Yeah, so you can get it at two places. So readandreaction.com/MAG will take you to a link where you can buy either a digital version, so a PDF version, or we'll take you to our hard copy version. The hard copies are being sold on Amazon this year. So you can either go to that link, like I said, readandreaction.com/mag, or you can go directly to Amazon and just type in Read and Reaction Magazine. It'll pop right up. It's number one on new football releases right now over there on Amazon. So we appreciate everybody supporting us, but if you want to go pick it up over there, you can get it. It'll be in your hands in a couple of days.
It is absolutely spectacular, I tell you, every year. Will, great job. Really appreciate it. We'll talk again soon, my friend.
Thanks so much, Ryan. Appreciate it.